What made Bishan Singh Bedi such an iconic figure? Joining me now are two special guests who knew him intimately. Ramachandra Guha, historian, writer, public intellectual and cricket addict, and Suresh Menon, author of a fine book, Bishan Portrait of a Cricketer. Appreciate both of you joining us. Let me turn to you, Dr. Guha, first. Ram, what do you think made Bishan Singh Bedi so special?
So there were many aspects to both his cricket and his personality. First, he was a truly great spin bowler, a part of that epic quartet which led India to its first victories overseas. Secondly, he was an inspirational leader. He made Delhi and North Zone a force to reckon with in cricket. And here we are, Suresh and I from Bangalore, speaking to you, Rajdeep, from Bombay. And it's Karnataka and Delhi that successfully challenged Bombay's hegemony and made Indian cricket truly, you could say, national in its catchment area. He was very good at working with young people. With, for example, Sunil Joshi, Murli Karthik, Anil Kumble, many younger spinners were mentored and nurtured by him. Finally, he was a person of fierce independence of character. His spine was ramrod straight. He was absolutely uncompromising with cronyism, with corruption, with nepotism. So, as he was one of India's greatest ever cricketers, but above all, I think he was an extraordinarily fine, courageous, and principled human being. Anyone who came in contact with him became a better person, which is very rare for a superstar. You wouldn't say it. You'd admire an actor for the great films he's acted in. You'd admire a batsman for the hundreds he scored. But normally famous celebrities can be mean, vicious, spiteful, petty. Bishan was none of the above, and he was a truly great cricketer too.
In a way, Suresh Menon, taking off from what Ram Guha said, Bishan Singh Bedi's impact was not just on what he did on the field, but also what he did off it. A kind of rebel without a pause, some would say, but an anti-establishment hero who actually challenged the Indian Cricket Board and fought for players' rights, which is why today players across the board are lavishing such huge praise on what Bishan Singh Bedi really contributed to the game. Is that how he should be recognized today, not just for what he achieved on the field, but what he meant to Indian cricket off it?
I think so. I think he was not just a rebel without a cause, which makes it sound a bit...
No, rebel. I said rebel without a pause.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that correct. Yes, he was a rebel without a pause. And I think what he did for Indian cricket and the strength he gave Indian cricket, the strength he gave the individual cricketer is very important. I'll tell you an interesting story by Madan Lal, told me many years ago. Madan says that he was such a heroic figure. He was such a great skipper that it wasn't just the bowling or the batting or the fielding that in which we were involved. If we went to a restaurant, we would wait and watch and see which fork Bishan took, or which knife, or which spoon, and we followed. So he was not only responsible for us as cricketers, he was also responsible for our growth as human beings, as civilized human beings. And this has been said only about one captain before, and that was Sir Frank Worrell of the West Indies. His bowlers would say something similar in the 60s when he was captain.
In a way, Ram Guha, because today's generation often forgets that there was an India before the Virat Kohli generation, before even the Sachin Tendulkar generation. 70s there was an asymmetry of power between cricketers and the board. And Bishan Bedi challenged in a way that dominance at huge personal cost. I mean, he took on the English cricket establishment on the Vaseline issue and was denied a testimonial, takes on the Indian Cricket Board, and they don't give him, he was even denied a pension for a while. Do you believe that in a way is one of his lasting contributions, that if today Indian cricketers have more rights, it is because there were the torchbearers like Bishan Bedi?
Without question. I think on the question of rights, being paid properly, being treated with respect, not being treated as servants of the board, all of that. But Bishan also had a life outside cricket. I've talked of his character. He's a person of great principle and integrity, but also of great compassion and humanity. Tiger Pataudi once said of Bishan that he is the only cricketer who spends more on himself than others spend on him. So he would take a friend out for dinner and the friend may be poorer than him or less famous, but no question. Also, he had interests outside cricket. He was He was interested in literature, in music, in culture. He had a wonderful sense of humor, compassion. His kindness towards the young. I mean, Rajdeep, you knew him. You were fortunate to know him from when you were a little boy because your father was his teammate. And Suresh and I got to know him. I got to know him as a teenager. Suresh was around the same time. So his compassion, his warmth, his friendship, his curiosity about other people, his lack of sexism, his lack of any sense of caste or religious or gender distinction. He was a truly, and he was a fabulous bowler. I mean, he was poetry. I mean, you tweeted, Rajdeep, about Jim Laker's famous tribute that what is my idea of paradise? Paradise, lords in the sunshine with rail involved bowling from one end and Bishan Bedi from the other. I might have Wasim Akram actually from rail involved end, but he was an extraordinarily gifted bowler. But I think he was a person in the round. He was not only about success, achievement, money, branding, sponsorship. So in that sense, he was a very distinctive human being. And I think that we should celebrate him for all of that. And I think so much of that is missing in the kind of boilerplate testimonials that you will find on Twitter from board officials, former cricketers. The human and moral lessons that Bishan embodied. For anyone who was fortunate to have known him or played under him, as Suresh says, with Madan Lal, or to have been a family friend like you, I mean, it was just quite extraordinary, the love and the compassion and the humanity that he exuded with him.
Suresh, there are lots of stories about Bishan Bedi. The one that I recall is in an article that he wrote, and you may even have had it in your biography, about how during the 84 anti-Sikh riots, he was advised to leave the country, and because the person advising him was a senior official in the president's house, Gyani Zail Singh was then president, I.S. Bindra advised him. He said, no way, this is my country, I'm going to stay here. So in a way, there was this sort of, the moment you challenged him, he would strike back with equal ferocity. Do you believe in some way that also became a weakness, that he was never able to adjust in a way to the new age, to the age of the IPL, to the age of auctioning cricketers? He was very critical of that. Do you believe he couldn't adjust to the new world in a way?
You speak of his obstinacy. Trevor Bailey, the English cricketer and writer, once wrote a sentence about him. He said he displayed a special brand of mystical obstinacy. And for a moment, I considered using that as the title of my book, A Mystical Obstinacy. But I think Bishan is a little more than his anecdotes. I think he's a little more than his obstinacy. In fact, I think what often went wrong was that he tended to package his good intentions in either poor timing or unfortunate language. But it came from a place of purity. It came from a place of care. And I think that is the important thing. You might not, I personally, for example, have not agreed with every single thing that Bishan has said or done. And we've been close friends for many years. But the fact that I knew this for a fact, and everybody else who was around him knew this, that it didn't come from a place other than a place of purity and a place of concern for the cricket. His great boss was cricket, not the administrators, not the officials, not those who thought that cricket was a good ride towards wealth and fame and fortune. No, he thought he loved cricket with a passion, and anybody who disrespected the game had to take him on.
That's because, right. He would keep saying that the words always used were, it's not cricket. And there's a reason, Rajdeep, that those words are used, because cricket is pure. There was a purity to it. But Ram Guha, how would today's generation, therefore, how should they look at, what should they learn from the Bishan Bedi legacy in an era of superstar cricketers, multi-millionaire cricketers? What could they learn, in your view, from Bishan Singh Bedi and take the torch forward in a way?
Rajiv, I can't speak for them. I can tell you what I learned from him. To be forthright, to be courageous, and not to worry about fame and reputation, to speak the truth as you saw it, to acknowledge mistakes if you made them, to think of a life beyond your profession. He was also a person of great faith. He was deeply rooted in the Punjab. He loved the Punjabi language. He loved the Gurbani songs, music, and yet he was an Indian. He was universal. He was also extremely opposed to jingoism and chauvinism in cricket. You know, the kind of jingoism we see among cricket crowds today, quite recently in Ahmedabad, for example, would have appalled him. So he showed you how could you be absolutely rooted in your culture. In his case, the culture of the Punjab. It is moving beyond that to India as a whole, and then embracing, the globe. So I think I cannot say what cricketers can learn from him, but I can say that his life was exemplary, not just for cricketers, but for any kind of professional. How to practice your craft seriously, rigorously, hopefully with success, but always with honor and self-respect.
Well, beautifully put, Ram, because we're getting a lot of comments from across the border. Pakistanis lavishing huge praise on Bishan Singh Bedi and his contribution and the manner in which he struck friendships across the border and therefore became this larger-than-life figure. Truly, I will just leave you with one thought, that every time I'd do a TV program and he was watching, he would often send me WhatsApp messages telling me to XXX socket to the politicians. So he was determined that he wanted the politicians to be put in the dock. And once in a match that was to be played between journalists and politicians, he insisted to play with the journalists, saying he wrote on the game, but he would never be with politicians because he felt a number of them were far too corrupt. That was Bishan Singh Bedi for you.
Let me add one
Yes.
postscript, Dasdeep.
Yes.
I mean, he had the same attitude to politicians in the cricket board.
Sorry? Sorry, I didn't catch that. I didn't catch your last word, Ram.
Yeah. He had the same attitude towards politicians in the cricket board as well.
That's right. And yes, Suresh, 30 seconds.
I was just going to say that we were talking earlier about lessons one learned from Bishan, and I think just by being himself, he taught us a whole lot of lessons, and some of that was explained by Ram just now. But also, I think it was a fact that playing cricket was a joy for him. It wasn't right. It never torture, and he brought that element of joy into the game. And I think that's an important lesson that today's cricketers need to learn.
I'm sure in a way the torch will be passed from one generation to another. For my generation growing up, Bishan Singh Bedi was truly an iconic figure, and he will be much missed, not just for his contributions on the field, but for the message that he gave beyond it. It's not cricket. Thank you very much, Ram Guha and Suresh Menon, for joining me. I want to tell you that Bishan Singh Bedi will be cremated tomorrow, 2 p.m. at the Lodi crematorium. And his life, as our guest said, was his message. The one and only Bishan Singh Bedi. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri. Jai Hind, Namaskar.